The silent cry, the coffee in Dr. Sarah Chen's mug had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. Her eyes were fixed on the cascade of data streaming across her workstation at Kepler Research Station, humanity's most advanced deep space monitoring facility. Located at the edge of the solar system, the station was humanity's ear to the galaxy, constantly listening for signs of intelligent life among the stars. Sarah pushed a strand of black hair from her face and leaned closer to the screen. Something was different about tonight's signals. Among the usual cosmic background noise and pulsar rhythms, there was a pattern that made her heart race. It was artificial, structured, and most importantly, it was desperate. "Computer, isolate signal frequency 847.3 and enhance," she commanded. The station's AI responded immediately, filtering out the cosmic static to reveal something that made Sarah's breath catch in her throat. It was a distress call, but unlike anything in Earth's databases. The signal was encrypted but not beyond human capability to decode. As the translation algorithms worked, Sarah called over her colleague, Dr. Marcus Webb, a grizzled veteran of humanity's first contact protocols. "Marcus, you need to see this," Sarah said, her voice tight with excitement and worry. Webb approached, his weathered face creased with concern as he studied the data. "Where's it coming from?" he asked, already knowing the answer would complicate everything. "The Zephyrian system. About 47 light-years out. It's beyond our established contact zones, but the signal is strong enough to suggest a large population center." Sarah's fingers flew across the keyboard as more data streamed in. "Marcus, this isn't just a distress call. It's a plea for help from an entire civilization." The decoded message began playing through the station's speakers, translated into English by the most advanced linguistic processors humanity had ever created. The voice that emerged was melodic, but filled with terror. "This is Mining Director Keth of the Zephyrian Colonial Syndicate. Unknown vessels have entered our system and are attacking our installations without provocation. We are a peaceful people with no military forces. Our shields are failing, and our people are dying. If any civilized species receives this message, please help us. We have children here. Please, someone help us." The message repeated several times before cutting to static. Sarah and Marcus exchanged grim looks. They both knew what this meant. Humanity had just received its first interstellar cry for help, and the response would determine how the galaxy would view their species for generations to come. Within 6 hours, the emergency signal had reached Earth's Unified Defense Council. The council chamber, built into the lunar surface for security, buzzed with activity as representatives from every major nation debated humanity's response. Admiral Isabella Rodriguez stood at the center of the circular chamber, her uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's unified military forces. At 52, she had overseen humanity's expansion to Mars and the outer colonies. Her dark eyes swept across the assembled delegates as she spoke with the authority that came from years of defending human interests. "The situation is clear," Rodriguez began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber. "A peaceful alien civilization is under attack by unknown forces. They have specifically requested help from any civilized species that receives their message. The question before us is simple. What kind of species do we want to be?" Counselor Jiang Wei, Earth's senior diplomat, raised his hand. "Admiral, with respect, we have no idea what we're walking into. These attackers could be more advanced than us. We could be starting a war we cannot win. Or," Rodriguez countered, "we could be stopping one that innocent people cannot survive. The Zephyrians have been broadcasting for 3 days. Each hour we delay means more of them die." The debate continued for another hour, but Rodriguez had already made her decision. She had seen the classified reports about humanity's military capabilities, projects that most of the council members couldn't even imagine. If humans were going to enter the galactic stage, they would do so as protectors, not as cowards who ignored cries for help. The vote was close, but it passed. Humanity would respond to the Zephyrian distress call with military force if necessary. The flagship of Earth's deep space fleet was the Defiance, a vessel that represented the pinnacle of human engineering and military innovation. Unlike the elegant curves favored by most theoretical alien ship designs, The Defiance was angular and brutal, designed by a species that had learned warfare in the trenches of Earth's bloodiest conflicts. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, watching as her crew made final preparations for humanity's first interstellar military deployment. At 38, she was young for a starship captain, but she had earned her position through a combination of tactical brilliance and unshakable courage. Her crew of 200 represented the best that humanity had to offer, engineers who could jury-rig solutions from scrap metal, tactical officers who could find weaknesses in any defense, and Marines who had trained for combat in environments that would kill most species. "Status report," Vasquez called out as the final countdown began. "All systems green, Captain," replied Commander James Park, her second in command. "The jump drive is ready, and all escort vessels report ready for departure." Vasquez nodded, looking out at the small fleet assembled around the Defiance. In addition to the flagship, they had the fast attack corvettes Lightning and Thunder, the heavy cruiser Indomitable, and the support vessel Mercy, loaded with medical supplies and humanitarian aid. "Communications. Any update on the Zephyrian situation?" Vasquez asked. Lieutenant Sophia Reeves shook her head grimly. "No signals for the past 18 hours, Captain. Either their transmitters have been destroyed or—" She didn't finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge understood the implications. The human fleet engaged their jump drives and vanished from the solar system, beginning humanity's first journey as potential galactic peacekeepers. The trip would take them 4 days at maximum speed, 4 days during which an entire civilization might be dying. During the journey, Vasquez held daily briefings with her senior staff. They had precious little intelligence about either the Zephyrians or their attackers, but humans had always excelled at adapting to the unknown. "What do we know about Zephyrian physiology?" Vasquez asked Dr. Amanda Foster, the fleet's chief medical officer. "Based on their vocal patterns and the atmospheric readings from their colonies, they're likely carbon-based with similar oxygen requirements to humans," Foster replied. "Their vocal cords suggest they might be larger than us, possibly with different respiratory systems, but nothing that would prevent basic communication." "And the attackers?" Vasquez turned to her intelligence officer, Major David Kim. "Unknown. Captain, the brief sensor data we received suggests ships with energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. They could be using exotic matter drives or some form of biological propulsion. We'll know more when we arrive." As the human fleet raced through hyperspace, Admiral Rodriguez was fielding communications from across the solar system. The news of humanity's first interstellar rescue mission had leaked, and the reaction was mixed. Some called it heroic, others called it reckless. But Rodriguez knew that this moment would define humanity's place in the galaxy. On the 3rd day of the journey, long-range sensors detected something that chilled everyone who saw the data. The Zephyrian system was dark. Where there should have been the energy signatures of a thriving civilization, there was almost nothing. "Captain," Lieutenant Reeves called out, her voice strained. "I'm picking up a weak signal from the system. It's barely there, but it's definitely artificial. Put it through," Vasquez ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and filled with despair, but it was unmistakably the same species that had sent the original distress call. This is Keth. If anyone receives this message, most of our people are gone. The attackers have strip-mined our colonies and taken our people as slaves. A few hundred of us are hiding in the deep asteroid mines. But they're finding us. We have maybe days left. If you're coming to help us, please hurry. Don't let our children die for nothing." The bridge of the Defiance fell silent. Captain Vasquez looked around at her crew, seeing determination hardening in their eyes. These were humans, descendants of a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. They had come 47 light years to help strangers, and they would not arrive too late. "All ships, prepare for emergency jump," Vasquez commanded. "We're pushing the engines past safety limits. Maximum speed to the Zephyrian system." The human fleet rocketed forward through hyperspace, racing against time to reach a dying civilization. Behind them, Earth held its breath, waiting to see if humanity's first act on the galactic stage would be one of salvation or mourning. As the fleet approached the edge of Zephyrian space, Captain Vasquez stood on her bridge, knowing that the next few hours would determine not just the fate of the Zephyrian people, but humanity's future role in the galaxy. The Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. Into the storm. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, and what they found defied their worst expectations. Where the intelligence reports had indicated a thriving mining civilization with dozens of installations, there was now a graveyard of twisted metal and debris floating in the void. Captain Elena Vasquez stood frozen on the bridge of the Defiance, staring at the tactical display that showed the devastation. Entire space stations had been torn apart, their fragments scattered across millions of kilometers. Mining platforms that had once harvested asteroids for precious metals now drifted as broken hulks, their lights dark and their hulls breached. "Sensor report," Vasquez commanded, her voice steady despite the horror before them. "Captain, I'm reading. Massive debris fields throughout the system," reported Lieutenant Sophia Reeves, her fingers flying across her sensor controls. "At least 12 major installations completely destroyed. But I'm also detecting energy signatures from the outer asteroid belt. There might be survivors." Commander James Park stepped up beside Vasquez, his face grim. "Captain, look at this destruction pattern. This wasn't a battle, it was systematic harvesting. Someone wanted these people alive, not dead." Before Vasquez could respond, a new signal crackled through the communications array. The voice was weak but unmistakably alien, speaking in the melodic tones they had heard in the original distress call. "Unknown vessels, this is Mining Director Keth. Are you the ones who responded to our call for help? Please, we are hiding in the Cathera asteroid cluster. There are only 300 of us left from a population of 50,000. The raiders took the rest." Vasquez grabbed the communication microphone. "Director Keth, this is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Defiance. We received your distress call and have come to help. What is your current situation?" There was a pause, then Keth's voice came back filled with disbelief and desperate hope. "Earth? You are the humans from the isolated system? We thought your species was still confined to your homeworld. How did you reach us so quickly?" "We'll explain later," Vasquez replied. "Right now, we need to get you to safety. Are the attackers still in the system?" "Yes." Keth's voice turned fearful. "The Void Syndicate's fleet is processing our captured people at the inner planets. They have at least 30 ships, and their technology is far beyond ours. You should not have come here. They will destroy you too." Captain Vasquez exchanged glances with her senior officers. The Void Syndicate was a name none of them recognized, but their actions painted a clear picture. They were slavers and pirates operating on a massive scale, harvesting entire civilizations for their own purposes. "Director Keth, maintain your position. We're coming to extract you and your people," Vasquez said. Then she switched to the fleet communication channel. "All ships, this is Defiance Actual. We have a slave raiding operation in progress with approximately 30 hostile vessels. Our primary objective is civilian rescue, but be prepared for full combat operations." The human fleet began moving deeper into the system, their sensors constantly scanning for threats. The Zephyrian survivors were hiding in a complex asteroid field that would provide excellent cover for both the evacuation and any potential ambush. As they approached the asteroid cluster, the Defiance picked up more detailed scans of the survivors. The Zephyrians were indeed larger than humans, standing nearly 3 meters tall with elongated limbs adapted for low-gravity environments. Their ships and equipment showed sophisticated engineering, but nothing designed for warfare. "Captain, I'm detecting movement in the inner system," announced Major David Kim from his intelligence station. "Multiple large vessels are breaking orbit from the third planet. They're heading our way." The tactical display updated to show a formation of ships unlike anything in human databases. They were massive, industrial-looking vessels with scarred hulls and mismatched components. These were not military ships but converted mining and cargo, vessels armed and armored for piracy and slave-taking. 32 ships confirmed, Kim continued. The largest appears to be a converted heavy freighter, possibly their flagship. "Captain, they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Let's hear what they have to say, Vasquez ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and mechanical, clearly processed through a translator. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in Void Syndicate territory. These resources and specimens have been claimed by right of conquest. Depart immediately or be destroyed. Vasquez felt a cold anger settle in her chest. Specimens. They were talking about the Zephyrians as if they were laboratory animals. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Fleet, she responded. You are engaged in the illegal capture and enslavement of sapient beings. Release your prisoners immediately and prepare for boarding and inspection. The response was immediate and filled with what might have been laughter. Earth Defense Fleet? We have never heard of your species. You have 4 small ships against our entire raiding fleet. Surrender now and we might allow some of you to live as slaves alongside your new friends. Vasquez cut the communication and turned to her crew. Well, they've made their intentions clear. All stations, battle alert. This is what we trained for. The Bridge of the Defiance transformed as battle stations were called. Emergency lighting bathed everything in red, and the crew moved with practiced efficiency to their combat positions. Throughout the human fleet, similar scenes were playing out as humanity prepared for its first interstellar war. Captain, the Syndicate fleet is moving to surround us, reported the tactical officer. They're trying to use their numerical advantage to overwhelm us. They're thinking like pirates, Commander Park observed, used to fighting frightened merchants and unarmed colonists. They have no idea what they're up against. Vasquez nodded. The Void Syndicate was about to learn the difference between raiding defenseless civilians and fighting humans in battle. Earth's military doctrine had been forged in centuries of warfare against their own species, creating tactics and strategies that no peaceful civilization could imagine. Launch all fighters, Vasquez commanded. Corvettes Lightning and Thunder, begin attack pattern Delta. Target their weapon systems first. Indomitable, prepare for direct assault on their flagship. Mercy, stand by for search and rescue operations. The human fighter craft launched from their carriers like angry wasps, their pilots eager to prove themselves in humanity's first space battle. The Void Syndicate had never faced fighters before, their tactics designed for ship-to-ship combat against larger vessels. The first exchange of fire lit up the void between the fleets. The Syndicate ships opened up with energy weapons and kinetic rounds, but their targeting was poor and their formations loose. The human fleet responded with precision strikes that crippled 3 enemy vessels in the first 30 seconds of combat. Their weapons are powerful but primitive, reported the tactical officer. No guided munitions, no adaptive targeting. It's like fighting with clubs against surgical instruments. The corvettes, Lightning and Thunder, tore through the Syndicate, formation like sharks among minnows. Their captains, trained in the asteroid fields of the outer solar system, used the debris from destroyed Zephyrian installations as cover, appearing from behind wrecked space stations to deliver devastating attacks before vanishing again. But it was the Indomitable that truly shocked the Syndicate fleet. The heavy cruiser charged directly at their flagship, absorbing enemy fire that would have destroyed most vessels. When it reached optimal range, it unleashed a barrage that tore through the enemy ship's armor like paper. Captain, called Lieutenant Reeves, I'm receiving communications from multiple Syndicate vessels. They're trying to surrender. Too late for that, Vasquez replied coldly.
They made their choice when they started taking slaves. Disable their engines and weapons, but keep them alive. We'll need prisoners for interrogation. The battle lasted only 43 minutes. When it was over, 28 Syndicate vessels
were either destroyed or disabled. The survivors sat helpless in space, their crews in shock at the devastating defeat they had just suffered. But the human fleet's work was far from over. In the inner system, the Syndicate's processing facilities held tens of thousands of captured Zephyrians and possibly other species. Captain Vasquez ordered the Mercy to begin evacuation operations, while the military vessels secured the Syndicate installations. What they found in those installations would haunt the human crews for years to come. The Syndicate had been operating a massive slave trade network, capturing entire populations from peaceful worlds and selling them to buyers throughout the galaxy. The processing facilities were designed to break down a civilization's will to resist, turning free beings into compliant servants. Marine Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez led the first boarding party onto the main processing station. Her team moved through corridors lined with holding cells, each containing frightened beings from a dozen different species. The Zephyrians were there, but so were others, some from civilizations the humans had never encountered. Captain Rodriguez reported through her suit radio, "We've found them. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They're alive, but barely. This place is a nightmare." The liberation of the processing stations took 12 hours. Human medical teams worked alongside Zephyrian survivors to care for the rescued prisoners. Many were in poor physical condition, and all showed signs of psychological trauma. But they were alive, and they were free. Director Keth was among the survivors, though he was changed from the confident mining leader who had sent the original distress call. When he met Captain Vasquez in person, his tall, graceful form seemed fragile. In the harsh lighting of the rescue ship, "Captain Vasquez," he said in his melodic voice, "my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. But I must ask, why did you come? Your species was isolated by your own choice. Why risk yourselves for strangers?" Vasquez looked at the alien leader, seeing in his large, expressive eyes the same pain and determination she had seen in human refugees throughout history. "Because that's what people do for each other," she said simply. "When someone calls for help, decent beings answer." The aftermath of the battle sent shock waves throughout the galaxy. The Void Syndicate had been a terror of the Outer Rim for decades, preying on peaceful civilizations with impunity. Their sudden destruction by an unknown species called humans became the subject of urgent communications between every major galactic power. Admiral Rodriguez received the reports while still in Earth's command center. The human fleet had not only rescued the Zephyrians but had liberated over 40,000 slaves from a dozen different species. More importantly, they had captured detailed records of the Syndicate's operations, revealing a network of corruption and slavery that reached into some of the galaxy's most civilized regions. "Admiral," reported her intelligence chief, "we're receiving communications from multiple galactic governments. They want to know who we are and what our intentions are." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Our intentions are simple. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We answer distress calls from anyone who sends them, and we make it very clear that slavery and piracy will not be tolerated while humans are watching." The human fleet began its journey home, but they carried with them more than just rescued prisoners. They carried the knowledge that Earth was no longer isolated. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy not as conquerors or traitors, but as guardians. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. As the Defiance prepared for the jump back to Earth, Captain Vasquez stood on her bridge one last time, looking out at the rescued ships following in their wake. 40,000 beings from a dozen worlds, all alive because humans had decided that cries for help could not be ignored. "Set course for home," she ordered, "and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them that humanity has taken its first steps onto the galactic stage and we're not backing down."